How you doing, Met fans? And welcome to October, and welcome to another edition of the Terry Collins Show, presented by Tunnel to Towers, supporting America's greatest heroes. Donate just $11 per month by going to t2t.org. That's T, the number 2t.org. I'm John Arezzi, and joining me direct from New York this first day of October is the former manager of the New York Mets, who is not a stranger to postseason baseball. He was the skipper for the 2015 National League champions, and as a current analyst for SNY, Mr. Terry Collins. Terry, good to see you.
Thank you, John. Good to be back on the show. We're looking forward to a fun show again today. And, here in New York, where there's a lot of excitement going on in the baseball world.
Oh, yes, there is. Met fans from all over the country, whoever was able to survive that wild game yesterday. For me personally, it was the most exciting not postseason, but regular season victory I've seen in all my years as a Mets fan. So we have a lot to discuss today, from what had to be the most amazing final game of the regular season in franchise history to the wild card series the Mets are about to begin against the Milwaukee Brewers. We will discuss it all. Plus, you have a perfect Talkin with TC guest today. Let us know who you're bringing on.
Yeah, today, years ago, I had a chance to meet this man. His name is Omar Minaya. And Omar, I had a chance, and I was going to winter ball with the Los Angeles Dodgers at the time, and I was looking for some players, and I called the Texas Rangers and wanted to take some of their players to winter ball. And Omar Minaya Omar was a scout with the Texas Rangers at the time, came down to Venezuela to see his players play, and we got to be very, very close friends. And through the years, we've shared tremendous baseball stories, and he was one of the great scouts and one of the great general managers in the game. So I've learned a lot from Omar. He's helped me a lot during my time in managing, and I was interviewed by Omar for the Mets job one time, and in Japan, he hired me to run the minor leagues the year before I became the manager here in New York. So it's a pleasure to have Omar on the show today.
Yeah, what a long history you have. And of course, he was with the Mets in 3 different stints. So we'll get into that, all of that with our special Talking with TC in just a minute. Terry, let's get right into the leadoff. Yesterday's game will go down in Mets history. It certainly will. Have you ever seen a game like this one in all your years in baseball?
I have never. I have never seen the swings that took place, and to continue the way they just fought back. What happened in the 8th inning yesterday, that could have really destroyed the Mets. That could have really busted their attitude and their adrenaline, their energy level, and all it did was made them pick each other up again more than that. And then to have Diaz go back out there in the 9th inning and absolutely deal the way we know he has the ability to do. And I loved the fact that he said, "Give me the baseball." I love that about a player, and that spoke volumes of how Carlos has handled this team. He respects his players, and he said, "You're right. You're my guy. You're the best guy in this situation. You're going back out there." Last inning was last inning. This is a whole new ball game here in the 9th inning, and I thought it was an amazing game.
You could see how Diaz really imploded after he didn't cover first base during that ground ball that Alonso stopped, and then it all fell apart for him. But when he got back into the dugout, you could see how emotional he was, and I never thought he'd be going back out for the 9th inning after the Mets were able to come back. So talk to us about that dynamic and that trust between the manager and Diaz at that time, and you agreed that Mendoza did the right thing by sending him back out for the 9th.
Without question. The one thing, John, I've always known about major league players, they do not like to be embarrassed. And, everybody makes mistakes. There's no perfect play. And, covering first base is a basic instinct a lot of times when the ball's hit to the right side of the field. And I think Edwin was so wrapped up in the, and you just, he didn't cover, and he made a mistake. And so when they Braves came back and took the lead, you could see that he was responsible for that in his own mind. And so that's why when I thought, when they had the discussion, I'm going back out there, this is my game, I thought Carlos did the right thing. The respect he got from the rest of the players on that team because of his decision, I think is going to tell tales down the road of the way he's going to be able to deal with his players. I thought it was the right move. He's your guy. He is one of the best relievers in the game. He made a mistake. And so that inning is over. You got the lead back on a home run by Lindor. And so you still got to go with your best guy. And I thought it was the right move.
Yeah, and then even when he got into a little bit of trouble, giving up a hit in the ninth inning, when Mendoza came out to talk to him again, what inspired me, and when I looked at that group huddle with everybody's arms around them on the mound, and then Mendoza giving him like, "This is yours to win or lose," that to me, as you said, that has a lasting impact on just how bonded this team is and how much they're pulling for each other. So it was really unlike something I had not seen before.
You know, there was an instance when I was managing New York where I put my arm around Jacob deGrom one time after he had a bad outing, and everybody talks about it, you know, the effect that, hey, listen, everybody makes mistakes, everybody. And once in a while, you got to, you know, forgive the mistake. Don't do it again. But you know what? You are still the guy in this situation. And I thought Carlos's decision, I thought the way Edwin went about it, that's exactly what you want to hear from a player, is look you in the eye and said, give me the baseball. Yeah. I'm going to put an end to this. And he did. And you can't, it's tough to find guys like that, John. It's tough to find guys who, in the heat of the moment in that situation, want to be a part of it. Even though he might have been responsible for losing the game, he didn't care. He wanted the baseball in that big situation, and I really respect Edwin for how he handled it.
Yeah, it was really great to see, and it's going to pay dividends, I feel. What a great game, and so many highlights in this game. So what we're going to do now, we are going to take a look at some of the big highlights from yesterday's Mets 8-7 win over the Atlanta Braves, and this is courtesy of SNY.
1-2 coming, and the breaking ball hit deep to left. Back goes Nimmo, back to the warning track, and it's out of here. Ozzie Albies goes deep, right on right. His 10th home run of the year, a 2-run shot, and it's the Braves who jump in front first. 2-0 Atlanta.
Direction today.
It's all good. Laureano drives one deep center. Back goes Bader to the warning track at the fence. It's out of here. Ramon Laureano with his 11th home run of the year, his 10th as a Brave, and it's 3-0 Atlanta. Pitch number 11 from Schwellenbach to Taylor. And he drives one to the gap in left center field. That's going to be between them and all the way back to the wall. Taylor heads for second. He's got the Mets' first extra base hit of the day. A leadoff double in the 8th inning. That's pulled down to third, and past Urshela down the line. It's a fair ball. Taylor will score. Alvarez trades places with him. He's at second with an RBI double, and the Mets have life in the 8th. It's 3-1 Atlanta. And Lindor lines one into center field, a base hit. Alvarez is in. Marte stops at second. 4 straight hits for New York. Lindor drives in a run, and it's 3-2. Poke the other way. That's a base hit for Iglesias. Marte around third, heading home. The throw by White is cut off, and the Mets have tied the game. All the way to third goes Lindor. It's 3-3 in the 8th. Lindor the go-ahead run at third, Iglesias at first. Nobody out. Vientos pops one up, shallow center field. Harris is there, tagging is Lindor. Harris makes the catch. Here comes Lindor. The throw to the plate is cut off, and the Mets have the lead. Mark Vientos with a sacrifice fly to bring in Francisco Lindor with the 4th run of the inning, and the Mets have exploded for 4 runs to take a 4-3 lead. And Nimmo clocks one to deep right field. White goes back, takes a look, and it's out of here! Brandon Nimmo puts a hammer down with a 2-run homer. 26 pitches yesterday for Diaz to finish off a 5-0 game. He has not fared well over the course of his career working second days. Behind him 2-0. And a swing and a grounder behind the bag. It's a fair ball. Diaz didn't cover, and a runner's going to score.
It's a slap in the face of your infielders when you don't cover.
3-1. Line drive left field. Going back is Nimmo, and it's over his head and off the wall. All three runners are going to score. Albies clears the bases with a 3-run double, and the Braves have gone back in front 7-6. And he lines one toward the middle, and that goes into center field for a base hit. And Lindor gets under one to center field. Harris going back near the wall, and it's out of here! Linsanity again! Francisco Lindor flips the script with a 2-run homer, and the Mets go in front 8-7. Oh, wow!
Oh, boy.
2-2. Ground ball. Lindor waits on it. He's got it. And the ball game is over. From 0-5 to OMG. What a ride. The Mets are going to the postseason in 2024. And what an incredible game to clinch with. Down 3-0, up 6-3, down 7-6. Lindor with the home run to put him over the top, and Diaz stretched to the max to close it out, and the Mets win it 8-7.
Every time I look at these highlights, Terry, and I've seen them several times since yesterday, I still can't believe how dramatic this game was. Just incredible.
Yeah, it's huge, and then, you got to play another game, and that's, that, and again, the adrenaline was so much in the first game, the energy level was so high in the first game, you had to think there had to be a little bit of a letdown, after you finally clinched, and, and I know the Diamondbacks are at home, and they're upset that the star pitchers weren't in there for either team, and but you know what, that's just the way it is, and you got to worry about your own club and your own situations. You can't worry about anybody else in that situation. So I thought getting Lindor out of the lineup, letting him have a blow for those 9 innings with that bad back, you never know. That's a lot of stress, man, to play 18 innings when you're playing with a little bit of an injury anyway. So I really thought it was a great day. I'm excited for the Mets fans. We have an Omar on the show today. We're gonna, the Yankees are in, the Mets are in, and Omar now is with the Yankees. I mean, it's going to be this. There's nothing like baseball, postseason baseball in New York City.
Yes, there's nothing like it. And getting back to the Diamondbacks, they would have done the same thing anyway if they were in the position there and having to play the doubleheader. They would have definitely done the same thing. So
yeah, it's easy when you're not in that position, though. To point fingers. Yeah,
if you're watching at home saying, it's the end of their season, what can you say? They had a great season and a good follow-up to last year. But I want to get to the Mets, and you got to say, the Mets MVP. He may not win the MVP in the National League this year. Ohtani's Ohtani. But from his RBI single in the 8th, scoring on the sacrifice play by Mark Vientos, and the game-winning home run in the 9th inning, and then throwing out Travis d'Arnaud for the final out. It was an emotional game, emotional few weeks. Francisco Lindor is an amazing leader of this team. Yeah,
he pretty much solidified his legacy with the New York Mets in the last 10 days. This guy had a tremendous season, and there's no telling, John, how long he played with some back issues before it finally got to the point where, hey, look, I'm hurting the team more than I'm helping them right now. And leadership is when you realize that and you say, look, for the betterment of the team and the organization, I should sit and let somebody else play. And that's tough for a star, man. They want to be out there. Big league players, especially the star players, they want to be on the field. And so I really respect Francisco for putting the team first. And yet when he was ready to come back, he came back and played brilliantly. And that he's not 100%. You still know that.
Yeah.
And then to have the game that he had yesterday, again, he's going to go down, and he's got a lot of years left in New York. He's going to go down as one of the great Met players of all time.
Yes, I totally agree with you, and I think what he's done this season and what he has done now in that final regular season game will always be remembered by Met fans. And you know, it was really emotional to see Lindor and Brandon Nimmo, and Nimmo, who hit that amazing home run, 2-run homer in the eighth inning, embrace at the end of the game. Very emotional for both of them, emotional for people watching on TV. And Nimmo said something which was really telling for me in the post game interviews, that when the Mets signed Lindor, he was brought in to be a leader. So nice props by Nimmo, who's also a leader on the squad. But to see them two embrace the way they did and how emotional it was, Terry, I think you have two really fine leaders on this ball club with these two guys. And I have a feeling they're going to do some great things if the Mets go deep into this postseason.
John, I agree with you, and I think that, to be honest, I think they are going to go deep into the postseason because they're on a roll, and when you're hot and you're on those rolls, it's amazing what you can do. You know, you go back a couple of years ago when this team when they had that big year under Buck. You know, those guys started to grow together as a unit. Nimmo, Alonso, Lindor. You know, and some of the pitching staff. You know, and then they've added quality, not just big league players, but quality guys who are, you know, dedicated to wanting to win, and they have just blended as a group. They genuinely like each other. They genuinely have fun in the dugout together. You don't see guys. I watch games, and a lot of times I look at what's going on in the dugout. And every player is at the top of the dugout steps. They're watching the game intently. That speaks volumes of what a job Carlos has done to blend these guys throughout the season. A lot of changes, as we know. They've rebuilt the bullpen. They brought in new guys, and everybody just wanted to be a part of it all. And I just think it's a great credit to the leadership on that team, be it Francisco, Nimmo, Alonso. You know, these guys bought into this whole theory that, hey, look, we've got to do this together. This is a team effort. We all got to pull on the same end of the rope, and they did. And that's why they battled back so many times in the season.
Yeah, and you could talk about Iglesias. You could talk about everyone who's contributed to this team, but it really starts with the skipper. And you know that, Terry. Talk to us about the grit of this 2024 Mets team led by first-year manager Carlos Mendoza. I mean, I'm going to play a clip of his speech to the boys in that clubhouse before the champagne popped. And then he did an interview with Steve Gelbs, which I thought really showed everything about what Carlos Mendoza is, how passionate he is about this team, about this opportunity. So we'll run that, and then we'll get your comments on the other side.
First of all, hold on. Congratulations to everyone in this room. I'm proud of all of you guys, the players. I thank our owners, Steve and Alex. You need to enjoy this. Yes. Proud of everyone in here, players, coaches, trainers, clubhouse personnel. This is an organizational success right here. You know, player development, scouting, domestic, everybody. Before the year started, nobody thought we will be in this position. Everyone had us out. We got to April. By the time we got to the end of May, we were sellers. Everybody, few of you guys needed to be traded. And guess what? You guys got together. You guys trusted each other. You had each other's back. You held each other accountable. And here we are. And I'm going to go back to the spring training again, because when we signed J.D. Martinez, in his press conference, he said, I'm addicted to the playoff. And guess what? A lot of people laugh at him. Here we are, boys. Yeah. Embrace it. Enjoy it. Alan.
Gary, thanks a lot. Carlos, first year as a major league manager, and you're in the playoffs. What was the moment for you this season where you said, you know what, this team, we might have something here?
It's hard to pick one specific time because we had so many. You know, whether it was on the field, off the field. I could go back and start pinpointing so many different moments that we knew we had something special. What a privilege, what an honor. Like you said, first time manager, first time doing it. And here we are celebrating. Credit to a lot of people, our owners, Steve and Alex, and the whole organization. This is not about just the players and the people that come here every day. It's the people that are outside of the organization, whether it's player development, whether it's scouting, whether it's performance staff. There's so many people that had a hand on this, and we should all be proud of this moment.
I know that you've been confident for a long time that this is your destiny, that you could be a major league manager. For you, though, what is the level of pride with how you were able to do it in this first year?
Woo! Woo! I had good players. I had good coaches. I had great people, and that's what it's all about. Our relationships, the way we connected, the way we care about each other. We went out there and did it. It's not about Carlos Mendoza. This is it right here. Coaches, and you got to give them credit. Now we have to embrace it, and we just got to continue to believe. Our fan base, here we are. Here we are. You have to enjoy it as well. Believe, because we are believing. Nobody thought we would be here, and here we are.
How did you maintain that belief when things were so bleak early?
I knew I had great people here. This is a first-class organization, and these are our standards, you know, and we just have to enjoy it, man.
Mendy, go enjoy it.
Let's go.
Woo! Guys, I got stuff in my eyes, so I'll send it back to you as we dry off. Plenty more to come down in the clubhouse.
Terry, as I said before we ran the clip, it starts with the skipper. It starts the grit of this team, but led by first-year manager Carlos Mendoza. Give us your thoughts about this first-year manager.
Well, I will tell you, first of all, I think he did a tremendous job. But, you know, I thought his time, the fact that he spent 4 years with Aaron Boone on the other side of town, and, you know, there are really two fan bases here in New York. You know, and being a Yankee, being with the Yankees, I mean, the pressure for them to win every single year is immense here in New York. So to watch how Aaron Boone's handled things, you know, even sometimes Aaron always stayed positive, and Carlos did the same thing. You know, in spring training, I talked to him in spring training, and you know, he said, "I like our club." He said, "You know, I really like our club. I think, you know, as we get through the season, you know, we're going to get better and better," and they did. Even though there was a lot of changes, they did. But he never changed his demeanor. He believed in him. He kept telling them, you know, we're going to be okay. We're going to be okay. We're going to be okay. And finally, the players bought into it. And, you know, I was told many, many years ago by Walter Alston, the great manager of the Dodgers, that the team will take on the personality of the manager. And this team did. They just started to believe in themselves as a team, as a unit. And Carlos had talked about it all year long, and they finally bought in. They finally believed it. And that's why they came together in the second half. You know, you're looking at what happened in May, and everybody wrote him off in May, as Carlos said in his speeches. Nobody thought, well, in spring training, of course, everybody thinks they're going to the postseason. But when you're in May and you're 11 games below 500, people are writing you off. And this guy never changed anything, and still believed, still talked about it, still went, you know, ran the games like it was every game was the most important game in the season. And when you're 11 games below 500, those are the most important games of the season. And I thought he did a brilliant job, and for sure he better be in the manager of the year conversations.
He certainly deserves it. No question about it. We're going to discuss the upcoming wild card series with Omar Minaya in just a bit and get his insights from someone who was instrumental in building some great teams for the Mets. But first, TC, let's talk about your very busy week in New York. You participated in the Tunnel to Towers 5K race in New York City this past Sunday. Tell us about that.
Well, you know, I had received some clips, thanks to you, about what to expect at that race. And until you're there, you can't even imagine what it's like. You know, for the 40,000 runners, but to sit there before the race started and to see these people, see the guys in wheelchairs excited, to see the guys that, you know, with prosthetics who are going to try to run or walk it, and to see the energy of the people around him. I mean, I had a great conversation with Dennis Quaid, with the great actor, and he doesn't miss a year. He's there every year to help promote this, you know, the foundation, to talk to Frank Siller before the race. And you could just see the excitement that he had. And then to watch 2,500 Army cadets come busting out of those buses and run through that car. 25, that's a lot of kids. And as they're running by, you're looking and saying, "There's the future of America running by." And then they lined the raceway as you entered the Battery Tunnel, cheering. And the cheers all along the way, John. I mean, the crowds were unbelievable. For 3.5 miles, there was just lines of people, and it just, when you're a runner, it just vitalized. I mean, it just keeps you pumped up. I finished. I didn't break any records, and I didn't get trampled, so I was just glad to get it done and met some great people, some great friends. Had a wonderful lunch with some guys I met at the race, and it was a great day. But not the best day, rainy, cool,
Yeah.
but it was very, very, very fun, and I hope to certainly be able to attend again.
Yeah, we've heard nothing but just wonderful comments from everybody associated there, and they were so happy that you got a chance to participate in it, and spending some time with Frank, as you mentioned, and some notable actors as well, doing media interviews afterwards. It was just a great experience all around, and we're just so happy.
I'm paying for it today, John. I'm still a little sore. I can tell you.
And the fact is, you're running around like you're all over town doing television. You're at SNY. You're running back and forth. I'm like, I give you a lot of credit, Terry.
Well, I will tell you, as I was running up, some guys came by and they were saying, "Man, I can't believe you're doing this." I said, "Let me tell you, at my age, just the fact that I'm going to be able to finish this, I'm going to slow down, guys, because I got to get through this." But that final push, when you go through that tunnel and you start running uphill, the next day you pay the price for it. Boy, I'll tell you, I had all I could do to get up and move around the next morning.
And how long are you in New York for? Is it through whatever the Mets playoff situation is? Or are you
just a couple more nights, get them through the wild card round, and then I've got to go back. I've got things I've got to do in Florida, and then I'm coming back up for a Tunnel of Towers golf tournament in October. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I think that's October 15th. Is that big celebrity golf tournament up in New Jersey? So that'll be fun.
Playing one of the greatest courses in the country too. I can't wait.
Well, I'm sure you're going to look forward to that. I mean, but they're just so happy to have the association with you, and we're happy to be associated with them. We will be back with this week's Talking with TC following this word from the Tunnel to Towers Foundation.
I got hit with an EFP that tore through the vehicle, tore through everything. I was just lucky that I had a phenomenal medic, phenomenal first response to my issues.
For every wounded veteran, there's a family behind them too who wants life to be as normal as possible. And so when the foundation provides homes for families, that happens.
When I'm in my home, I'm not fighting the world right now because it's made for me.
Go to T2T.org now.
Our guest on this week's Talkin' with TC is a former longtime front office executive for the New York Mets. He was the assistant GM to Steve Phillips in the mid-1990s, helping build a winner that made it to the postseason in 1999 and to the World Series in 2000. After leaving to become the first Hispanic general manager in the major leagues in 2002, by accepting a position for the Montreal Expos, he returned to the Mets at the end of the 2004 season as their GM, being a part of building that 2006 team, which made it to the NLCS that year. He remained as GM until the 2010 season, but later returned to the Mets for a third time in 2017. He currently works with the New York Yankees as a senior advisor for baseball operations. What an incredible career. It's an honor to welcome Omar Minaya to Talkin' with TC. Omar, welcome.
Thank you for having me. Very happy to be here. I've been following your show, TC, and to be able to talk baseball with TC and your fan base, I think is great. TC and I go way back, and when we talk, we like the word baseball. It's a baseball that we are very fond of, and TC and I go so many years back, and his history with the Dodgers and my history with the Rangers early on. So talking baseball with a well-respected baseball man and a great show. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Omar, postseason in New York City, does it get better than this? Both sides of town? Come on.
No, it does not, TC. I love it. Here it is. Baseball is fall. I mean, New York is a baseball town. for those of us that are baseball lovers, baseball historian, when you think of baseball, when you think of the fall, you think of baseball in New York. You think of Bobby Thompson. You think of Willie Mays making those catches, for over the years. You think of, the Yankees dynasty with Reggie hitting the 3 home runs. You think the Boston Red Sox and the Yankees. You think the Mets and Cleon Jones making that catch in '69. And I say this because as a kid that grew up in New York, baseball, that's what we expect, we love, and it's a great town. But let's not kid each other. New York is a baseball town. This is the baseball town. It's a town that had 3 teams that have part of 2 leagues, and what a great day yesterday was with the Mets. The way they came back and won, and we, the Yankees, are getting ready for our playoff run.
So now, I know you're doing your stuff with the Yankees now. Go back and tell me about. I've always been interested. When commissioner, whoever it was that came to you and you took over the Montreal Expos when they were. How hard was that to keep that franchise running?
You know what? The word is hard, challenging, and fun all together. When I first took the job, the commissioner, of course, I was the assistant GM with the Mets. We had just finished going to the World Series in 2000. As you know, I had a great relationship as a kid that grew up in Queens, that grew up blocks away from the stadium. I mean, his home, And here's Commissioner Seeley calling me and saying to me, remember at that time, it was labor dispute. It was a contraction. The team was supposed to be contracted. Actually, we had on the board, we had a draft of the players we were going to draft from Montreal and Minnesota at the time. So the next thing you know, I get a call from the commissioner. He said, hey, I need you to do me a favor. And I said, Commissioner, tell me whatever you want, because I'm a big fan of Bud Selig, and he's been very instrumental in my career. And he said, well, I want you to go out to Montreal and run this operation. And I'm reading the paper. I know they're going to contract this team, and I have a steady family. And he said, I think you can do it. You're my guy, and I just want you to run this. I said, Commissioner, let me check with my wife. But at the end of the day, to have the opportunity to be the first Hispanic general manager in the game, and the Commissioner Seelig, you can't say no to Commissioner Seelig. That wasn't going to happen. I definitely agreed to. And it was hard, but it was challenging because when I first got the job, TC, I got handed a paper. Sandy Alderson was in the commissioner's office. I get on Monday, so I take the job on a Friday, Saturday. Monday, I have to report to the commissioner's office, and Sandy Alderson tells me, this is what's going on. I said, well, send me a list of the organizational charts. Well, the organizational chart was just 6 people. I had a AAA manager. I had a major league trainer. I had 2 or 3 second assistants, and Adam Morgan at the time, who was the assistant founder. 6 people. And by the way, Friday, we opened up camp in the major leagues in Jupiter.
Oh my gosh.
And it was a wonderful, I didn't sleep much, but we got it done. And of course, he did say to me, I want you to hire Frank Robinson to be the manager. And how can you say no to Frank to be the manager at the time? But you know what? It was great. And I say this because probably TC was one of the most fun times in my career in the organization, because we were small. We were not a lot of people. So we all had to stick together. And it was wonderful. The people in Montreal, the staff that was there, we put it together. And besides that, we were a last place team in 2001. And we ended up playing. We were contending in September in 2002. It was just one of my most fun experience, most hardest experience, most challenging experience. But I loved every minute of it.
Then you go, everybody knows the job you did up there. And at one time, the Expos, I thought they had maybe the best minor league system in the game. They did a great job of getting talent. But then you get to go be the general manager of the New York Mets. Your hometown team. that had to be a thrill of a lifetime.
Yeah, listen, I've been so fortunate when I look back on my career and how in the world I end up in New York. And as when we first met, TC, I was with the Rangers. I was with the Texas Rangers in 1984, 85. You were with the Dodgers. We crossed paths a lot during winter ball. We had a lot of interrelationships. So for 13 years, I'm with the Rangers, and I'm a New York kid in Queens. And, I was scouting. I started bottom up, all those things. And then I get a call. This is the first time around. Before the second time we talked about, I get a call from Fred Wilpon and Steve Phillips that they want me to be the assistant GM of the Mets. Now, you got to understand that I grew up blocks away from Shea Stadium, and out of all these teams, you got 30 teams, and you're going to be the GM of the team that you grew up with next to. That's a blessing, And then I leave, and then I'm a GM with the Expos for 3 years. I interviewed for different jobs. The Dodgers was one of them. I interviewed for job even being the GM of the Expos because the team was still. It was uncertainty about it, and then I get a call again. Really, who I consider almost, Fred Wilpon again. Hey, I need you to. I'm coming to Montreal, and you can't tell me no. I want you to be the Mets GM in 2004. And you're right. It was a great, great talent with the Expos, but the chance to come home to be the general manager of a historic, franchise like the Mets with a fan base and all that. That was unexpected and a blessing, and it's been a great experience.
Yeah, it had to be. I mean, you put some pretty good teams on the field, at that time, and I always look back and I thought, God, look at the players that were coming to New York, and when we first met. Down in Venezuela, I believe it was those Texas Ranger players you sent down there. I mean, I always thought GMs should have been scouts. You have a better idea of how to about getting players, rating players. Because I tried to scout just part-time one time and I couldn't do it. But I thought, what? For me, GMs, they need a scouting background. I always thought that because, you got reports and there are certain kind of players you like and that you think are winners. And that had to be a big part of your job in New York of putting all those good teams together.
Yeah, no doubt. To me, actually, I still remember the first time we met. It was not Venezuela. It was Dominican. I remember in those days, you were managing Licey, my friend. I think you were. That's where it was. And believe it or not, Omar Minaya might have been 22, 23, 24 years old. Here I am watching a baseball game. To my right, I have Al Campanis, and to my left, I have Howie Hack, and I'm watching this manager, Terry Collins. And imagine having that knowledge to your left and to your right. I grew up under that. And, of course, I was a scout. But Sandy Johnson really was my mentor. He was the guy that kind of really guided me. And I started coaching and scouting. He gave me 3 years, which I think that's the way I believe in developing young people to come into the game. I think you should try scouting and development. And now, of course, with the growth of data. But I still believe the data guys, we should put them on the field. Let's put them in the uniform, and they'll be better. I think everybody will be better. And I think the uniform people should go to the office. But there's no doubt scouting it's really my bread and butter. And I say scouting, listen, I believe that, I'm very proud I consider myself still what we call it's really a scout, an area scout, whatever you want to call it. And I love amateur scouting really over pro scouting because amateur scouting is really, really evaluation, the projection and all that. And I was fortunate, but also, you said we put some good teams together, Terry, but you were there. You saw some of those guys. You saw the back end of our group, that we were over the years. But we also had good people because as a GM, you're only as good as your staff. You're only as good as your people. And this day and age, the way the game is, you really have to have everybody be aligned, everybody be of understanding everybody else's position, not development, scouting, data. No. We need to all come together and learn from each other. I think that's the great part. If where the game is today is for those that really want to be open to new ideas.
You know, when you bring that up, my first year when I first got my first managing job, I was managing the Cal League, and Ronnie King was the scout, the area scout in Northern California for the Dodgers, and he took me on. In the wintertime before my second year, I was going to go back to Lodi, California. Ronnie King took me on a scouting trip, and the first thing I learned was, it's easy when you're in player development, you get these players, these scouts signed. And sometimes, you hear those little rumblings and, in the clubhouse, like, who signed this guy?
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. And so when I went out with Ronnie King and watched amateur, first time, and I asked him one time, he said, yeah, we're going to go see a kid play. And I said, who is it? And he said, well, you tell me who it is when we got there,
That's right.
And so we went out there, and I learned a huge lesson. Yep. So when I became the farm director of the Dodgers, I wanted in spring training, I tried to bring the coach early, and I sent them out with Florida scouts before spring training started. I said, go out and scout and see how hard this is.
Yep.
And then you will never, ever say, never again, well, who signed that guy? You put your name onto somebody, and tell me, I've always wondered how to blend the scouting department and the player development department together.
Well, really, you blend it together by being, the most important thing is by letting people express themselves, being open-minded. Listen, sometimes you've been there. You've been a great farm director. You've been a great manager. And sometimes you have a different position, you disagree with it, but what makes for me a good leader is to let the people express themselves, be open-minded. Even if you disagree, just for me, it's more communication, it's more allowing people to express themselves. We're all right sometimes and we're all wrong sometimes, and I think that, to me, you blend it in. Now, you have to do different things. Little things that you talked about. You talked about bringing the scouts, the development people with the scouts. Well, vice versa. Bring the scouts who always complain and blame the player development people that they messed them up. You heard that one. Listen, and to me, leadership is having the ability to kind of bring people together, mix it in a little bit. Nothing wrong with a little argument, nothing wrong with disagreeing. I love disagreement. I love challenging a disagreement, doing it in a respectful way, and then we all learn from each other, because in the end, now the number one thing that's for me is it's about the players. It's about making the players better. It's not about you being a scout and wanting to be a director, or you being a manager and wanting to enable and you wanted to be the major league manager, or you being a farm director. No. It's about the organization. It's about the players. Jerry Krause, who I loved, worked with me. I say the word with me, not for me, with me. I hired him and we worked together. And remember, Jerry got crucified because he says organizations win championships, not players. And that's so true. It's an organizational thing. Organizations win championships. The players are part of the organization. And we are all in this together. Now, I am a big believer that it's always about players. It's about the players first. How do we make guys better? And the players have to believe and trust that your interest is him. And then, but vice versa. Scouts and player development people, and you lived it, Terry, people want to feel that from a leadership standpoint, you care about them and you care about their career. And if you can bring all that together, to me, that's the kind of culture that I was fortunate enough to learn under, and wherever I am, I try to build.
Yeah, that was one of the things, when we first started to talk baseball, you and I, one of the things I really came to understand is that scouts and the player development people, they got to be on the same page. They've got to be able to work together. I mean, there's a lot of times there's some scouts, there's some really, really good scouts who are really good players, and so they had an idea of what they need to do to get better. And so why not listen to them? that I've always tried to tell my staffs in the minor leagues and even my big league coaches, when we would read reports on players, hey, call the scout to sign this guy. Let's call that guy and get him involved. And, as the farm director, anytime there was a question about a certain player, should we keep him or should we not? We called the scout. We called the scout to sign the guy.
Well, to me, but here you are, a manager doing that. Here you are, a farm director doing that. For me, culture and organization really starts up top, whether it's ownership, presidency, or GM. Now, they call them president now, but they were really old. They were GM back then.
GMs, yeah.
Everybody. The GM title has changed to the president of baseball operation, and the GM today is probably was the assistant GM back then. But that's all. But it starts there. It starts there, and it's a cultural thing. It's a system you put in place. And now, don't get me wrong, because there's a lot of human component to this, a lot of human element to this, and it takes leadership. It takes strong leadership. I've seen you do it. I've seen you manage. I've seen you. This is how we do it, and you have to be consistent. But to me, that's what makes good organization. And when you look around, to me, one of the model organizations for me has always been the Atlanta Braves, with Sherhouse and Bobby Cox, And I am in a model organization right now with Brian Cashman. Can you believe he's been, I think, 26, 27-year general manager in New York?
Incredible.
And it's an organizational culture. And listen, Cash and I disagree. But, one of the things I love about being here is that we have this debate, me and him, one-on-one, on how things should be, culture and leadership. And to me, to your point, bringing people together is leadership from top to bottom. And it starts with ownership and filters all the way down.
Yeah. So, what do you think? What do you think the chances are we're going to see a Subway Series?
Wow. You know what? And, for it to happen, I do believe, listen, that you have one thing the Mets have going right now, and and I know, is teams that work their way in, they're dangerous because they're hot. You know what I'm saying? You've been
I've said it 100 times.
They are hot. And here we are. We're a good team. We're a 90-plus win team. And don't get me wrong, I'm glad we're resting for a week, but I'm a little scared because those rests can be dangerous. Now, I do believe once we get going, once we get rhythm, and we can run, and really when offense, and you've been in the playoffs, TC, when you got a Cole, a Rondon's been pitching good, so you have a combination of 2 or 3 frontline starting pitching, and an offense that's probably never been seen before in the sense of Judge, Soto. So I feel that I think the longer we go, the more dangerous we are. So I think, yes, that first round scares me because of the leadoff. The Mets are hot. I think I'd rather play Milwaukee than play San Diego, the way San Diego has been playing. And then, of course, the National League is tough. You're going to probably have to get through the Dodgers and Philadelphia, I'm guessing. So, listen, I don't want to odds. The fact that we're both playing, we have a chance. And
That's right.
I've been a part of one in 2000, and that was special. Playoff baseball. Now, the thing about it is, I don't think no team is dominant. There are years that you feel like these teams are dominant. I think all teams. I think baseball. What we saw this year, we saw a lot of streaky, a lot of teams that ran the table, got hot, like Detroit. We ran the table early. We got up, and then we got cold. There's no dominant team this year. So if you ask me, I'll say 50-50 right now.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, until you lived it, that 5 days, man, I'm going to tell you what, it can take the starch out of you.
Oh.
You get in rhythms. As we all know, baseball is about a game of, it's about guys get routines and they stick with routines, and you disrupt that routine.
Yeah.
And things happen, man. And I know in 15 we sat for 5 days after we swept the Cubs before we got to the World Series, and you could see the air coming out of the balloon. I mean,
Yeah.
the practices were, we didn't have anything else to do but practice, and you could just see, that they were dying to get back on the field, and I think you're right. It's
Well,
if you get through that first round and get back on the field and get that routine going again, you could be dangerous.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So to me, like even today, as I'm driving before I did the show, I'm checking in with Michael Fishman, kind of assistant GM. I just want to find out what is the schedule this week. I know we practice at 5, and you've been there. And then what is the right time to practice? You're probably playing at night.
Exactly.
So do you want to play? Do you want to work out in the day? Do you want to work out at night? Little details, when you do this business, every little detail matters because it's psychological, So I want to find out what time are we practicing Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, because we'll play Friday. And listen to this, TC. So we run the table. We have the best record in the American League. We play Saturday, off Sunday, play Monday. So maybe in 10 days, we might play 2 games.
Yeah, I don't like it.
I
don't like it.
Now, don't get me wrong. I'd rather have that than have to get in there and play the wild card game because, you could be out in, 2 out of 3. Give me that. But it's up to us and Booney and our staff, Louis Rojas and everybody there. And they've been through this, so they have a little experience. But I don't care, my brother. Playoff baseball, I don't care how much experience you have. Every year is different. I'm telling you,
Well, John, are you there, John? So,
yes, I am.
I know John's got some questions for you because he's been a Met fan his whole life. So you're going to get probably some old Met questions going on here.
Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it.
Definitely. I've been a fan since '66, so that was my first game, and I've seen all the Mets playoff runs, and this is exciting for me. But this first question is really for both of you. I mean, you both have been part of really magical seasons during your careers, part of very special teams. The question for both of you is talk about how you both know, whether it's in spring training or during the course of a season, you get the sense that this team, this season, has that special chemistry. And what course of action do you take during a season to put it over the top when you notice that there's a special chemistry that you're overseeing? Omar first.
Well, listen, I'm one of those that I look at. I always say, you know what? Let's see where we are Memorial Day weekend. Let's see where we are those first 50 games or so. I'm a big 50-game guy. Let me look at it. And look, for us, we had a great run. We started off hot. I felt good. I keep an eye on those 10 games over, 20 games over to kind of get a feel because there's going to be a bump in the road. And then, of course, how we got there, injuries or that. So to me, Memorial Day weekend, I look at it as a day to kind of get a full evaluation. Look, spring training, TC, what do we always say? Spring training, you can get fooled by spring training, good or bad. You can get fooled by it. So April, weather, once you get into May, once I got 2 months in, I get a good feel for where this team is going to be at. I have a feel for it. Now, that being said, is the team young? Is the team old? All these things come into play. But for me, Memorial Day weekend, June is a month that I kind of look at it really, where are we, who we are. And then that builds up to the trading deadline. And then by the trading deadline, then I need to know I got to go get it. I got to go get guys to either separate myself or to go get guys to get in. Or, you know what, I don't have the team. So let me plan on going young, because then I'm thinking 2 or 3 year plan, that type of stuff. That's how I look at it, But of course, the wins and losses, you know what? Wins and losses are wins and losses. You can project all you want, but wins and losses are wins and losses. You are who your record tells you. That being said, I'm a big one. That baby starts getting 10 games under, 12 games under. I don't know about that. It's an uphill battle, That's how I look at it.
Yeah, I always, first of all, John, I got to tell you, as the manager, my job was to only worry about the 25 or 26 guys in that locker room. I don't care about who we don't have, who's not there. And so, that was always the general manager's job. But I always thought, you know what, get me to July and I'll see, to where, it's when it's starting to get hot and you start to see who's going to, how your team's doing, because a lot of times early in the season, you can get fooled by some things. But when you start getting into that real, all those series now, and you kind of get a feel where your team is at. And so you looked up in July. I used to look up in July and say, hey, I kind of like where we're sitting right. I kind of like, and again, injuries can occur, but it's always, and I used to say to me, some of the coaches would say, hey, who are we looking at? And I said, that's not my job. My job is to worry about the guys that are here now, because we don't know if one of these guys is going to be someplace else in the next 3 weeks. So, I always thought it as my job was to coach and to manage the club that I had. And so the rest of that, I always thought it was the general manager that, he's the guy who put those names in that locker room, and they don't get enough credit sometimes when you look up at the end of the year when you're a playoff team and realize what an effect the general manager had on the players in that clubhouse.
Great. Thanks, Terry. Omar, you had 3 runs in New York with the Mets over the course of your career, mid-1990s, which led to the very first back-to-back postseason runs for the Mets, 1999 and 2000, the World Series, then 2005 to 2010 saw the Mets almost make it back to the World Series again in 26, and finally coming back in 2017. Compare those experiences for us, the pros and the cons of those 3 different runs you had with New York.
Yeah, the first one, of course, as an assistant GM, and under the leadership of Steve Phillips, who was great. Steve. I was, Steve was his GM, and learning under Steve, and that meant a family at the time. You had an ownership group that you had Nelson Doubleday and Fred Wilpon. That was you had kind of a little different when you have 2 separate ownerships. And Terry, you know that how that can be. It can be a little bit divided, but people came together and we did. And of course, under Bobby Valentine, who was the manager, I was learning on a day-to-day basis between, Bobby, Steve, and all that, and New York. And then, of course, we had the players. It was a built-to-win team, a veteran team. I was involved a lot more in the scouting and the development of players in those years early on when you were the assistant. I was more involved in minor leagues. We were able to sign Jose Reyes, Nelson Cruz, a whole bunch of guys that I was able to be on the ground to go get these guys, sign them, and kind of at that time really changed somewhat the minor leagues. Gary LaRocque was the farm director. Gary and I worked together, and it was a more of a on the ground, doing a lot of different things, a lot of learning, a lot of energy. Second time around coming in as a GM, when you're a GM, you're managing you're managing north. You're managing, your conversations are going to be with your owner mostly, and then you're going to be talking to your manager mostly, and you hire good people. I was able to have, Sandy Johnston around me, Rudy Terrazas on the scouting side, Adam Wogan on the farm director side. We had my thing in that position was, and of course, we were built to win also. And that one, you had to be more engaged in recruiting talent, Pedro, Beltran, Delgado, and you're more of a face of a franchise, media. And when you're the face of a franchise in New York, that's going to take a lot of time, effort. You got to be strong because, New York media, it's win or lose, you're going to be good or bad today. You know about that, Terry. You know how that is. Terry had to manage the media every day. And then the third time around, it was more one of Fred Wilpon reaching out to me and said, hey, at that time I was the Players Association. Remember, I thought I was, I was very engaged in the labor issues. I'm a big player guy. I believe the game is the player, but I also believe, the way the game is that, with all these labor, because of my relationships with management, because of my relationship with players, I always thought there was a lot of issues that I'm still involved with, whether it's international draft, whether it's just structural games issue. So that was a challenging job. But Fred came out looking for me. And there's some people that always they know they can call on me, whether it's Bud Selig or whether it's Fred Wilpon, and they know they can say, "Hey, I need you," and they know, like, I with the Mets, he asked me, with the Mets, he said, "Hey, I need you to help me. I need you to help me." At that time, it was a transitional period, so all of them were in different times, but they all have different job description, different moment, and then too where I was in my career also,
Yeah. Which free agent acquisition or trade was the most satisfying for you? And which potential trade or free agent signing do you regret not being able to pull the trigger on?
Wow. Oh God, there's so many of them, that you think. Listen, I think these free agent signing of Pedro coming to New York was an impact.
That was huge.
Yeah. That was huge because it just sent a message. You know what I'm saying? It sent a message that, the message is that we are here. Here's Pedro leaving Boston, just finishing the World Series. And it was convincing Fred and the whole Wilpon group and family that, listen, we got to send a message. And we go get Pedro, we send a message. By getting Pedro, we were able to go get Beltran and add others to it. So to me, that one, was probably the most free agency signing that had most impact because it built other things around that. That's what I think, And as far as trades and others, wow,
There's a lot.
It's a lot that you think back. I don't think of one. I will tell you this. I was never, ever told I cannot do something. So, I've done some good trades. I've done some bad trades. The bad trades that were done was because I did them. But I don't ever recall, and there was never one that I was told, listen, you can't do that for financial reason. Now, don't get me wrong, you're realistic too. Some things you can't do. You know what I'm saying? But I never thought of. It's just hard for me to say which one back. I just don't think of that.
Well, yeah, it's a list, and anything could have happened, but yeah, I appreciate that answer. I got one more for you, and this really is about your current role with the Yankees, working with Brian Cashman and the organization there, and the current Mets manager, who is a rookie, first-year manager, but spent a good deal of time with the New York Yankees, Carlos Mendoza. Give us your take on Mendoza and him coming from the Yankee organization to the New York Mets and doing a fabulous job as a first-year skipper for the Mets. And talk to us a little bit about the responsibilities that you have working with the Yankee organization.
Well, first I'm going to start off with Mendoza. I thought it was a great hire. And why I thought it was a great hire, because, I say Mendoza, he did it the way that I was raised to managers to do it. He started in the minor leagues. He built his way into this. He worked through the minors. I'm a big believer in experience, and he did everything that I believe as you want your manager. It's like almost like going to college. He worked in the minor leagues. He managed in winter ball. He worked. He's bilingual. He was with a big organization, so he understood New York, and he understood big market. He understood how to handle the media. And above all, he's a good baseball man and a good person, because it's not only being a good baseball man, but being a good person. Those things matter. And I think that from him, when they hire him, I thought they got the right guy. I thought he was going to be a guy that was going to manage the game well, but also was going to communicate well, and players were going to trust him. He was going to be consistent. So that's what I thought the Mets, and I think that, look at this team. This team was not supposed to be in the playoff, and he's gotten them in the playoff, and who knows how far they'll go. As far as my role with the Yankees is, I'm working for, first of all, I'm working for what I consider a Hall of Fame executive. For me, Brian Cashman, is a Hall of Fame executive, and people can say, well, he's won a lot and he's got a lot of money. Let me tell you something. I've been here in this town. For you to be the general manager in this town for 20-some years, that's Hall of Fame bar none, okay? For you to, I believe, has only 2 or 3 years below 500?
Yeah.
Come on. Listen, you can spend a lot of money, but let me tell you, I've been there. I spent a lot of money, and it hasn't gone well sometimes. Yeah. Just spending money is not the way thing. To be able to do it in this town, and for me, working for him, and he's a friend, but my role is basically a senior role, similar to what I was doing with the Mets. Not only working with Brian, I'm fortunate enough to, whether it's the Steinbrenner family, Hal Steinbrenner and Randy Levine, they want to hear my input, what I think about this, what I think about that. And more important thing that I love the most is Brian allows me my freedom to go and spend invest time with all our young interns. I take a lot of pride in spending time with young interns. I say this because when you look out there, there's 4 general managers right now that I was able to give an opportunity early on. Alex Anthropoulos, Perry Manassian, Dana Brown, and David Stearns. I love being around young kids, young people, helping them, develop them, more grow to be executives. And Brian has really much allowed me to do that. Most of these kids are mostly in the data field, and I learn from them. So I love what I'm doing. And at the end of the day, every major decision, whether it's free agency, all these things, and I sit down every day before the game with Booney. And me and Booney sit down for 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes, talk baseball. So that that's my role here. It's a versatile role, but I'm very, very proud and happy to be here.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Omar. Back to you, Terry.
So, I just wanted to thank you for coming on today. I love talking with you. Love to be around you. Certainly look forward to having lots of conversations here in the near future. But I really, really appreciate your time today. Good luck with you in the playoffs. And I hope we go head-to-head here in the next couple weeks. I
love it, Terry. And, I'm assuming you're still doing the SNY stuff. Am I correct? You're going to be in the
I am still doing the SNY stuff, yeah.
Yeah, we did that together. And I will say this, T, you're young. You deserve to be in the game still. I believe you have a lot to offer. I really believe that. You can offer a lot of people, a lot of organizations. And, the thing about Terry is this. So I remember I tried to hire Terry a couple of times. He came into Japan, and he would always say, that's it. I think I'm calling it quits, and I'm going to give it up, and this and that. I said, no, don't do it. Came back in 2010, I believe it was, and hired him to be the field coordinator, and then ended up being the longest tenure Mets manager and going to the World Series. You have a lot of baseball in you, Terry. I believe that. I do. You believe you had that.
Thank
okay.
You. Good friend. All the best.
Thank you so much, Omar.
Thank you.
Great having Omar Minaya on with us. What a career, what a legacy he has, but he is a Yankee now.
He is a Yankee, but he's a great friend and a great baseball man. This guy has, ever since we became friends, he has supported me forever, and it's always fun. Anytime something goes on, this guy's had so many roles. He, besides being with clubs, he went to the Player Association, and helped the guys when they were in the middle of that last contract negotiations. And, he's got great rapport with players. And I'm so excited he's still doing what he's doing. And I love to sit and talk baseball with him. That's why I was glad he could be on the show.
Yeah, what a great career he's had, and it continues to this day. Okay, Terry, now it's time for another Tunnel to Towers Amazing Hero of the Week segment. This week, we hear the story of songwriter Billy Montana from the Tunnel to Towers Sounds in the Round series. Let's go to that right now.
Tunnel to Towers presents Sounds in the Round, an evening with songwriters to benefit our veterans and first responders.
I'm Billy Montana, and I'm a professional songwriter living in Nashville. The first time the song Bring on the Rain made it to the national airwaves was just a couple days after 9/11. This was the first hit song that I was a part of writing, and one of the significant stories behind it is that it was released on September 10th, 2001, which was a Monday. Tuesday was 9/11. I heard this song on Thursday, and the first time I heard this song on the radio, some random DJ somewhere had taken the song and interwoven sound bites from Ground Zero and President Bush speaking and news feeds that were happening. So as the song was playing, these sound bites were woven coming in and out of the song. And I was so moved by that. And I had just pulled up into our driveway under our American flag, and I cried like a baby. And when I look back on that, for the song to be used in that capacity was a very humbling moment for me. Yeah, it blew my mind. I am grateful for that, and I'm thankful that it provided some encouragement when encouragement was needed. I mean, I just felt like it would be appropriate to play it and share a little bit of that story, because Tunnel to Towers really was spawned from that tragedy. I feel like, unfortunately, a lot of times we are turned into better human beings because we have to go through tragic things. And I think Tunnel to Towers is an example of that. It obviously is, because of Stephen's story.
Please support us now. Visit T2T.org or call 1-844-BRAVEST and donate $11 a month. Thank you, and God bless you.
We'll have another T2T Amazing Hero on next week's show. Terry, before we wrap it up for the week, baseball has lost its all-time hit leader, Pete Rose, who passed away earlier this week. Rose finished his career with 4,256 hits, and there was nobody like him. Pete Rose, 83 years old. Any thoughts or memories of Pete, Terry?
Yeah, I have a lot, John. I mean, I hope the baseball world and even the fans of the game, remember him as Charlie Hustle, and not with what occurred that forced him to be suspended. Again, we're all human. We all make mistakes, and Pete made a mistake, and he paid the ultimate price for it. But this guy, I mean, when you were a young man and you were playing this game and you watched Pete Rose play, you said, I want to play like that. That's, that Charlie Hustle, that's what you want. This is the first guy that ever had the head first slides. And every game he played for 20 years, he played to win. And you can't ask for anything more than that. And I'm saddened to think that, he passed away before he was finally given the gift that he should receive, and that's to be inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame, because obviously, without a question, he was one of the great players that ever played this game.
Yeah, it was ironic that he was right here in Nashville over the weekend doing a baseball card show, and he did so many of them, and then you get the word that he's passed away. But I got the opportunity to see him play many times. Biggest memory for me was 73 in the championship series against the New York Mets, and how he played and how he just riled the crowd up. And then I really never saw anybody like him. And it didn't matter. Charlie Hustle was Charlie Hustle. And even that night at the All-Star game when he crashed into Ray Fosse at home plate, and the night before he had dinner with the guy, that's the way that Pete Rose played. He played hard. He'll never be forgotten for his accomplishments on the field. And as you said, maybe someday he will be inducted into the Hall of Fame. So Pete Rose will be missed in baseball. Terry, I want to thank you again. That'll wrap up this edition of the show. Until next week, this is John Arezzi for Terry Collins. Have a great week, everyone, and we wish the best to the New York Mets as they compete in their wild card series against the Milwaukee Brewers. Let's go, Mets.